Hello, you lovely people. How are you doing today? I hope you're doing okay. So, last night I pulled a random question, as I do, for us to look through, and went for a walk, gave it a lot of thought, and it brought lots of different things to mind. And that's why I like this, going deep within for the winter. To take time to think, to take time to ponder over your life, over your views, your thoughts, what you thought, and has that changed? And the question today is, what kinds of reoccurring situations or people do I attract? What kind of lessons might they have about myself? Okay, there's your question. And what came to mind for me was about how many lessons for me over my life have been about that there very, very often isn't a certainty. We want guaranteed outcomes, we want guaranteed results. And so often in life, these are rarely the case. Even when we think it's guaranteed, it turns out not quite to be that way. And I started thinking about different perspectives, how depending on who we are, all those parts of us, our past, our present, our experiences, feed into our perspective, how open-minded we are, what we believe in, what we don't, what we're against, what we're for. They all colour our perspective. So as I started thinking about this more, I looked around my room and there were several things that really stood out. So if I show you this lovely carving and I ask you the question, is it the being depicted on your left or your right, hugging the person on your left or your right? Or is it the other person who's depicted hugging more the other person on your left or your right? That sounds confusing, but put it in a nutshell, who's hugging who? Or are they hugging each other equally? And then I grabbed this pine cone and I thought, is this pine cone on its way to opening fully? Or is it on its way to closing? What are your thoughts? Differing perspectives. And then this lovely oil burner that I have. Is this pair of hands supporting and holding the bowl that you put the oil in? Or is the bowl resting gently in the hands? Is it the bowl that is causing the hands to be cupped, or the cupping hands that causes the bowl to rest? And I started thinking back through my life of other times when things were more serious and I wanted guarantees. I wanted a definite answer and I didn't get one, or I started off getting one and then it turned to confusion. And this was to do with, I was thinking of different things and I thought, for example, my education. I thought where a teacher said, you will fly through this exam, you will pass it with flying colours, and then I failed. And they were so aghast and they said, why did you fail? Well, on the day I was scared of the exam, I couldn't think straight, I had a headache, the day didn't go to plan, it didn't go to the expectation of the expert who'd known me for 2 years and who thought they could guarantee my outcome. And then I remembered when I was very young, I was in and out of intensive care almost monthly. I never went more than 6 weeks without being in intensive care, being told, we thought we were going to lose you last night. I had a very rare allergy condition. I was one of the first people that had to carry adrenaline around. It was pretty unheard of. I was discussed a lot by a variety of doctors. They discussed a variety of ways of finding out what this was. And it was interesting because my mother said straight away, it's the medication you're on. And I didn't believe her. I thought, I am under the experts. They know, so I will listen to them. And I did. And she continued to get the phone calls to say I was once again in intensive care in yet a different hospital, and she had to come and visit me there. And obviously look at me in not a good way. And then I had a young cousin who was training to be a doctor at the time, and he visited me after I'd just come out of hospital once. And he said to me, why are they not doing this? They should be doing hormone tests. They should be doing this. And I said, I don't know. I'm told I'm seeing the best. And every time I got taken in and I told them who was the professor in charge of my case, and they went, oh, okay, we'll step back. It's his case, because he was considered the best. And then one doctor, I woke up one day in intensive care, and I looked to the bottom of the bed, and a doctor was standing there with a worried look on his face. And he said to me, do you want a second opinion? And I was surprised he'd even ask me. I said, I'd like as many opinions as I can get to find out what the problem is, because I can't keep going on like this. But it gave me, I have to say, that every morning I would get released from hospital, I would decide I am going to live my life to the full, because I don't know when this is going to happen again, and I don't know if I'll survive it. And eventually, after 3 years, or just under 3 years, I think it was, I threw the medication in the bin, and I was never ill again. And even after that, I had one doctor I visited who said, oh my goodness, we will never ever put you on that medication again, and I'll put that on your notes. And I visited another doctor who got very angry with me and said it's impossible that this medication could actually harm you in this way. So I said, well, all I can say is I must be strange because I have a simple mind, and when I'm on it, I'm sick, and when I was off it, I was well, and that was enough evidence for me. And then in recent years, I had a similar thing where I had something not quite working right, and I was put on a medication, and I ended up with a heart condition, and it was one of the side effects. And I remember sitting in the heart consultant's office, and at that moment he rang the doctor from his office and started shouting at him, saying, why have you put her on this medication? Or it may have been her, it doesn't matter. And they had this chat, and I was sitting there feeling quite uncomfortable because these two doctors were arguing my case to say you shouldn't have put her on it, and the other one was arguing this was my reason for putting her on it. Either way, I have a permanent heart condition from that situation, which I now manage. So what this again taught me, whether it was my education, whether it was health, whether it is what I should eat. There are things that I can eat that others can't. There are definitely things that I can't eat that I have a maybe intolerance to that others can, and say, I have no problem with that, it's okay for me, whereas for me it causes a big problem. And I'm sure there are many of you that have different intolerances. We are all individual, our bodies, our minds, our spirit, our emotions, our mental state are all individual. And so often we're put into little boxes that this is how we should all work. And there are similarities, but very often I prefer, which is why I love holistic health, is to look at someone as an individual, to look at them on their own. Because we just don't know. So often we just don't know. And therefore what I found as my question, my answer to that question is, I really respect people who can sometimes say, I don't know. We just have to give this a go. We have to weigh up what might happen. You're ready for that exam. We think this is the right thing to give you. We think this is the right thing for you to eat. We think this is the right exercise for you. We think this is the right meditation for you that'll calm you. And you take a choice to do it or don't, and then decide whether it works for you. And that's how I always work with every one of the people I come into contact with, is I see them as an individual and say that they have to find their own path, and I will help them along the way, but they need to find that guidance within themselves as well as to what's right for them, and speak to different people to find what works, what doesn't. So I think that for me helps me to answer that question, that different situations come up to have helped me to see that there very often isn't one answer, that sometimes we just have to try things out and see what happens, and we have to become known of what's right for us. So with that, I wish you a wonderful day. Gone on a bit further today, but there was a lot there. So I will speak to you soon. Sending lots of love. Be well. Bye.